Hello everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the book Refuge and welcome to a random video that I haven't made in quite a while, and that would be 5 random book reviews. So I have done this 3 or 4 times previously. Sometimes I pick a theme, sometimes I don't. This time what would be the theme? I don't think there really is a theme. When I do these 5 random book reviews, there are books that are either 5 or 6 star reads for me that I just want to gush a little bit more about and feel like either you've heard about them so many times for me and you're like, Jen, shut up, or they're ones that I feel like, I just want to brag on them some more. And so that's kind of what we got today. These are all books I've read within the last 30 days, probably less than that. I don't know if they're all, I don't think they're all May reads. A couple of them were in April. But I just wanted to spend a little bit more time yakking about them than I have. And so we're going to do that. We're going to dive into these. I'll try not to make this a super long video because you've probably heard me mention them a few times at this point, but I just wanted to dive in. So the first one that I want to do that for is A Lady of Rooksgrave Manor by Kathryn Moon. This is one I know I've talked about quite a few times, but I think it just sits with me so well for a couple of reasons. One being, this is only like the second reverse harem that I have genuinely loved it and felt like it worked as a story, and that the relationships between the heroine and her harem, as well as their relationships with each other, were very interesting to me. In this book, we have Esther, sorry. The writing on the back of this was very small, and she is about to lose her position at this one place that she works because she's a bit of a scandalous lady, and she's also not super great at her job, and she gets caught kind of being a voyeur in a certain situation, and so she gets invited back to this doctor's house for a liaison, and she is all about that liaison. And while she's having this liaison with this doctor, he morphs into a second being, and he fucks her from behind, not showing who he is, even though she's she's even more turned on by this second being than she thought possible. And it's amazing. And so after they have this great interaction with each other, this doctor, his name is Dr. Jonathan, he says, that is my alter ego, and if you really liked, being with both of us, both sides of our personality here, there is a place called Rooksgrave Manor where ladies like yourself who are more open to the freaky sides can sleep with creatures, basically. I don't know how else to say it. Like, they're called monsters there, even if they don't have like a scary form, even his other form is just like a larger, gruffer being, so Esther is very interested in this, and so basically Rooksgrave Manor is a monster brothel, but it is pretty well taken care of. There's a witch who is a madam who spells the place to keep people safe when they're there, and the women are free to have as many or as few men in their harem as they would like. They're to be treated with respect. They're very they're paid very well for this. So very positive Victorian sex work happening as well. I think this is Victorian. This is a historical as well. So it's an erotic historical romance, and it is, and paranormal too. It is delightful, guys. It's delightful. And so we get introduced to these different men who will make up her harem. There's an invisible man. There is a sphinx. There is a vampire. And there's one other thing too. I can't remember. There is 1 or 2 scenes of MMF situations because a couple, like literally a couple of the men have had previous relationships before, and so they have, a well-defined relationship already. So this is a reverse harem that has some MMF happening in it, which is great because that is something I'm finding it's very difficult to find really good interplay between everybody. But I absolutely adored this story. I don't know what it was. What was great about it as well is that Esther, she gets into these arrangements mostly because she thinks she just wants the sex, that she just wants to have freaky, hot sex with all these different men and be paid for it and be treated like a queen. That's what she thinks she wants. But what was actually a whole nother level and was even more beautiful to me was that the way that she grows to care for her men and the way that they care for her and the way that they are willing to work together to protect her. There is another mystery kind of happening at the same time. There are some bad things that begin happening at Rooksgrave Manor, and it is not as safe as we originally thought it would be. And yeah, I just really love how Kathryn Moon did this. She said there will be more in this series. It won't be about this relationship, the polyamorous relationship, because this has an HEA. This could be read as a standalone. We are introduced to other characters that I think that the next book could be about, which would be really cool. So I highly, highly recommend. I love this book so much. It was so good. I want to talk about The King's Spinster Bride by Ruby Dixon. This is another one I've been mentioning a lot lately. I normally don't go this goo-goo over novellas. I generally like my books to be full length, but this is one that my dear friend Avery said is one of her favorite books of all time, and I was journeying back down the Ruby Dixon trail. I've taken a little pause, but I was diving back into Ice Planet Barbarians, and I thought that this would be a fun little trip off of it. And so this book has so many tropes that I like in it that I just had to give it a go. This has an older woman, younger man. They're both virgins. He's a pining hero. He waited for her. He's a barbarian king who, when she was a older teenager, I believe she was like 16 or 17, and he was only 8 years old, her father had captured him, and she protected him while he was in captivity in her father's kingdom. She protected him because she didn't want him to become a bargaining chip or be used against his father. And when his father overthrows her father, he tells her, he's like, I won't forget what you did. And so she's forced to go live in a convent in the mountains. And when his father dies and he becomes the king, he knows it's time to make his move. And his plan is to make her his queen. And so he goes to the convent she's living at. She thinks he's there to kill her and finally end this. But no, he's like, he makes her an offer and is like, be my queen. I've loved you. I've waited for you. I knew that you were the one for me. And I don't know what else there is to say about that one, but I just had to bring it up in this. Like, it is so good. It is so sweet. I feel like I wanted this to be a full book just because I wanted to spend more time with the couple. I do feel like the story is told really well in the length that it is, because they have so much history. You're able to see it, but we didn't need to see her be at the convent. It starts when it needs to. There's a prologue about the past, and then it starts when it needs to, and it ends when it needs to. Their HEA is guaranteed, and it's really beautiful. And I believe that this is like the start of a series. Like, I believe that the world that they live in, there's more that she's written. I haven't tried it yet because honestly, I don't know what book could top this one, but I will read more. I will read more Ruby Dixon, period. She has some great books. Then another one real quick to mention is Royally Endowed by Emma Chase. So we hear a lot about Royally Screwed, which is the first book in this series, the Royally series. And they're really good. I gave all of these books 4.5 or 5 stars. But I feel like the last book in the series doesn't get talked about a lot. And so I'm here to do that today because I definitely hear a lot about Royally Screwed, and we hear a lot about Royally Matched, which is like The Bachelor but with a prince type of thing. And Royally Endowed is actually a bodyguard romance, and it's actually not about anybody who's royal. So this book is about the younger sister of the woman from the first book. And now that her older sister is married to a prince, she needs protection as well. And so from the age of 17, she gets given this bodyguard. So this book, it actually very cleverly does something that I don't actually like that much, and that's time jumps. But because this starts when she's only 17, and I believe he's like 23 23 or 24, so it's not a huge age gap, but it does start when she's underage, and really, truly, nothing happens at all, but that's when they first meet each other. Obviously, she thinks he's cute, but him and one other bodyguard are basically her full-time protection, and so over the next, like, 5 years, we see them at different points. So it doesn't just do a time jump. It has them at different significant events in both of their lives, like showing what they're going through, showing how her becoming famous because of this is tough on them, showing her, you know, going to school and him like being there, showing them have moments as friends. You know, they become friends too. And then, you know, when things lead to romance, it just felt so right. Like it was supposed to happen. And I just loved them together. Like, I truly loved them together. I also listened to the audiobooks for all of these, and they were excellent. I'm pretty sure Shane East and Andy Arndt do all of them. But for sure, Shane East is in all of them. It might be different heroines for some of them, so don't quote me, because I can't remember. But Royally Endowed definitely doesn't get the same attention as the other two, and it was my favorite in the series. It was wonderful. All right, then I have a couple Mafia to talk about because y'all know. I've been going goo for gaga over the Mafia, and I mean, I always do, but lately it's been escalated quite a bit. And so I just want to be 100% honest about this, that one of the author's PAs did reach out to me at first to start reading these books, but when I found out that the first two were on KU, I decided to read them without being given a copy because I wanted to know if I wanted to support the author, because I was like, I don't want to commit to talking about a book on my channel if I don't know that I love the book. Like, I'm very selective about doing that because I just know that it could go badly and then I could lose trust with you guys if I'm talking about books I don't like. But anyway, I've mentioned this already in my weekly wrap-up when I talked about the book, but I'm talking about it in the 5 random book reviews, and that's Ruthless Stranger by Maggie Cole. I've read 6 books in this series so far. Only 2 of them are currently available to you guys. Book 3 comes out on June 1st, and actually, 1 book in this series comes out on the 1st of every month, going all the way to November of this year. So you are going to get all the Ivanov and all the O'Malley goodness that you can handle. But let's talk about what makes Ruthless Stranger so good and what hooked me into the series. First off, here's this beautiful model. This is Quentin James. If you don't know who he is, he's an adult entertainer. So whenever I see him on a book cover, it gets me really excited. But this book is about Maxime and Aspen, and they are both older characters. This is both second chances at love books. They were both in long-term committed relationships with people who just weren't right to them. So they both end up in Vegas. By the way, he's 43 and she's 38. So again, I like that this is an older love story. Like, I really, really like that a lot. He's there for one of his brother's bachelor parties, and she's there because her girlfriends are taking her to celebrate her divorce because she was married to a horrible guy for like 20 years. She was married from the age of 18 until 38. So it was a long road. And so her girlfriends want her to get laid, and she's like, you know what? No, I don't want to have to worry about making a connection with someone. I just want someone to blindfold me, tie me up, and fuck me to get me back on the train, and that's all that I want. Now, Maxime happens to overhear that, and he's like, whoa. And so he ends up approaching her friends, and he's like, hey, I know that this is kind of sketchy, that I am interjecting myself into this, but I also could use a night of meaningless sex, and would you set me up with your friend so we can do that? So her friends, they find out info about him, well, as much as they can, because obviously they don't know the biggest thing, that he's part of the mafia, because that's the other part, is that because she's blindfolded during this encounter and they don't know each other's names. He doesn't know hers either. She doesn't know his. He feels like it's safe because he doesn't want to entangle anyone in the mafia. That is something that if I were to say one thing that was a detriment in this series overall, it's the fact that the men like never fully share everything that's going on. But because it's consistent from book to book that the men, they just do not tell their women what's happening. They're like, we don't want anyone to be able to torture it out of you. We don't want you to carry that burden. And so it's tough to have someone in your life that you're like, don't ask questions about this part of it. So he figures that they're pretty safe to have a one-night stand if she's blindfolded. They don't know each other's names. There's no chance that they'll see each other again. But what they don't expect is how deeply they connect with each other when they, not only when they were having sex, but afterwards, when she's just lying there with a blindfold on, talking to him in bed for hours. And then he runs into her again the next night, and he's able to see her without her seeing him. And he asks her if she wants to do it again. And so they do it again. And then he plans to never see her again. But what kind of romance would this be if that's how it played out? And it turns out that when he gets back to Chicago, she happens to be on a government committee that he needs permission to build. I can't remember what the building is, but him and his family are trying to create jobs for their people. And so they're going to build, they need to build and they need permits. And he comes in the room and number one, he recognizes her. And then when he speaks, she recognizes his voice. And so they end up like meeting up in the bathroom. And the first thing she says to him is, I've missed you. I've missed you. Because the kind of devotion he was able to give her in just 2 nights was more than she'd experienced in her whole marriage with her husband. And so now Maxime has a choice. Does he bring this woman into his life, even though she will never fully be a part of his world? Or does he give her up? And the thing is he said, when he had that weekend with her, he's like, I hope I never meet her outside of this weekend, because if I do, I'm never going to let her go. And that's what happens. This book was fucking amazing. Pick it up. Pick it up. Or you could be a part of the Mafia Romance Readathon that's coming up next weekend, June 4th through the 6th, and you have a chance to win it. Because in this package right here, Maggie Cole sent me copies of the first and second book in the series, and so you can have a chance to win them. And look, she signed them too. Anyway, shameless plug. Check out my Instagram for more details about that. We got one more book to talk about because I also am obsessed with this author. And I had to talk about one of her books. And so I picked one of my 6-star reads. And that is Broken Vow by Sophie Lark. So this is book 6 in a series. And I think you kind of need to read them in order. I also love all the books in this series. But I won't be that bitch who tells you you have to. I'm just saying you probably should. And you'll want to, because her series is amazing. It starts with Brutal Prince, which will also be a prize in the Mafia Readathon, just saying. But this book is about Riona Griffin, who is a badass lawyer for the family. This is also a Mafia book. And when she gets herself in kind of a tough situation, there's someone trying to kill her. She gets assigned a bodyguard with connections to the family whose name is Rylan. And he's a cowboy. He's a former military man. And he's willing to do a friend a favor and watch out for Riona. They have instant animosity because they have crazy chemistry to each other. In the beginning of this book, she has a boyfriend. He's lame. He's not around very long. There's no cheating, none of that. But he's not around very long. Because when this guy is protecting you all the time, it's going to make some men feel a bit inferior, I'm just saying. And there are some amazing things. This is a reverse, like, Grumpy Sunshine. Like, he's the sunshine one, she's the grumpy one. And after he saves her life from a very precarious situation, he decides that we need to get out of the city. So he takes her back to his family ranch in Tennessee, where this high-class city girl has to live on the farm with Rylan and his family until we figure out what's going on. And it's amazing. There's so many things about, like, role reversal in this book that made me so happy. This is a book, and I'm going to tell you, this is a book where the heroine needs to grovel, and I feel like I don't see that enough. I love whenever I see a grovel, but to me it's ridiculous to believe that only the men fuck up, okay? Men are not the only ones who fuck stuff up. Women, plenty of the times that they can do it. And so there is a scene of a gesture. There's a grand gesture made by the heroine that brought me to tears. It brought me to my knees. And because I don't always, I feel like high-powered, strong women, in both real life and in books, we tend to be so much harsher on them. And I was prepared to not like Riona. But the way that Sophie Lark is able to present her, to show her little softer pieces, to show how Rylan brings out those softer pieces and shows her that maybe her career isn't everything that she wants. And it's not that she can't still have her career, because that isn't what this story is about. This is not about a woman giving up her career to be a stay-at-home mom or anything. Or, not that there's anything wrong with that. I'm just saying that's not what this is. This strong woman starts strong and ends strong, but she learns different kinds of strength. She learns how to be vulnerable with someone, and she has some fun with her sexy cowboy in Tennessee. It's beautiful. So there you go. I talked really fast, but those are 5 recent reads for me that deserved a little more attention. I hope you will give them a check out. I'll have links to them down below in my description box. Make sure you check out the Mafia Romance Readathon if you want to read Mafia for the first weekend in June. It's gonna be great. And yeah, thank you so much for watching this. I put up new videos 3 to 4 times a week, and you can watch another one right now. Bye.